The sun had barely peeked over the rooftops of Willow Creek Lane when I first met Abigail, Abby Thornton. I'd only been in my late grandmother's house for 2 days of unpacking dusty boxes and sorting through faded photographs when she appeared on the porch, clutching a cotton swab like it was a loaded gun. Her peroxide blonde hair gleamed in the morning light, and her sharp eyes, framed by oversized sunglasses perched low on her nose, sized me up like I was a thief caught red-handed. "Unless you swab that cheek right now," she barked, jabbing the swab toward my face. "You're trespassing, and I'll have the sheriff here faster than you can blink." For a split second, I thought she was kidding. I'd inherited the house Lee Gallamy grandmother, Evelyn Harper, had left it to me in her will, notarized and filed with the county. But Abby, self-proclaimed Overlord Abigail Thornton of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, wasn't here to welcome me with a casserole. She was here to wage war. I stood there, still in my flannel pajamas, coffee mug in hand, trying to process the absurdity. "You're telling me," I said, keeping my voice steady, "that I need to prove I'm Evelyn Harper's grandson because—" "What? She didn't send you a memo?" Abby didn't flinch. Her lips curled into a smug grin, the kind that screamed she'd already won this imaginary battle. "I've lived here for 22 years, she said, her tone dripping with authority. "Evelyn never mentioned a grandson. Not once. So until you can prove you're not some squatter with a forged will, I'm notifying the HOA board, the city, and anyone else who will listen." She spun on her heel and marched off, her clipboard tucked under her arm like a general's battle plan. I watched her go, dumbfounded, as the neighbor's curtains twitched and a guy walking his labradoodle slowed to gawk. Great. 2 days in, and I was already the neighborhood pariah. The house itself was a time capsule wood-paneled walls, a sagging couch that smelled faintly of mothballs, and a kitchen radio permanently tuned to a blues station. I'd spent every summer here as a kid, helping Grandma Evelyn weed her garden or sand down the porch steps while she told stories about building this place with my late grandfather, Jack. It was theirs, then hers, and now mine. But to Abby, that history was irrelevant. By noon, a crisp envelope landed on my doorstep. No knock, no greeting, just the sound of her retreating footsteps. Inside was an HOA letter, typed in aggressive, bold font, informing me that my residency was under REVYEW, pending a DNA test, copies of the will, and a laundry list of identity proofs. At the bottom, in fine print, they'd even specified attesting Centerbright Gene Labs, which a quick Google search revealed was owned by Abby's second cousin, Marla. My stomach churned. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a shakedown. Over the next few days, the neighborhood turned cold. The elderly couple next door, who'd once waved at me when I'd hauled in my suitcases, now averted their eyes. A woman pushing a stroller crossed the street to avoid me. Abby's influence was a venom seeping through the cul-de-sac, and she didn't stop at social exile. The citations started rolling in daily, relentless, petty. One claimed my trash cans were misaligned by 3 inches, despite me triple-checking the city's pickup rules. Another fined me for an unapproved lawn ornament, a chipped concrete turtle Grandma Evelyn had painted herself. Then came the noise complaint for playing Muddy Waters in the garage at 3 p.m. on a Saturday while I unpacked. Abby wasn't just watching me. She was hunting me, and every move I made was another excuse to tighten the noose. It wasn't about me, though I realized that fast. It was about control. I didn't fit her VY Shown of Willow Creek, a bearded 30-something with a beat-up Ford pickup and a sleeve of tattoos peeking out from my t-shirt. I wasn't the khaki-wearing, HOA dues-paying drone she wanted. One morning, I overheard 2 neighbors whispering as they power-walked past. "He's a fraud," one hissed, clutching her water bottle. Abby says the house was supposed to go to charity. Her companion shushed her, but their sidelong glances said it all. Abby had spun a tale, and they'd swallowed it whole. That night, I sat on the porch, the flickering light casting shadows across the warped boards Grandma and I had once refinished together. I could have walked away, sold the place, and let Abby have her VY Tory. But then I heard Grandma's voice in my head, raspy and fierce. "Don't let a bully take what's yours, Ethan." She'd fought off developers and nosy neighbors for decades. I wasn't about to let her legacy crumble under some HOA tyrant. The next day, I went on the offensive. I made copies of the will, the deed, my birth certificate, every scrap of proof that I was Ethan James Harper, Evelyn's grandson. I installed 2 security cameras, one by the front door, one overlooking the backyard, and started a log, dates, times, every interaction with Abby. I snapped photos of her citations, recorded her shrill rants when she cornered me, and even began a VY Deo diary, half to vent and half to build a case. I wasn't just defending myself, I was arming myself. Then came her boldest move yet. A typed note appeared under my door, not an HOA citation, but a personal ultimatum: submit to the DNA test and vacate within 30 days, or we'll pursue trespassing charges. She'd signed it Abigail Thornton, HOA president, as if that title gave her the power to EVYCT me from my own home. I laughed, dark and bitter, and tucked it into my growing Abby file. She just handed me the rope to hang her with. I started digging into her past, not out of spite, but necessity. Abby's obsession with rules didn't match her sloppy history. Public records showed she'd been a real estate agent years back, bouncing between towns and Leah VYing a trail of angry HOAs in her wake. On an old forum, one user called her a dictator in pearls, claiming she'd forced his family to rip out a playset because it was 2 inches too tall. Another said she'd strong-armed their HOA into finding a widow for a cracked driveway right after her husband's funeral. The deeper I dug, the uglier it got. Abby wasn't just controlling. She was a predator, thriving on fear and paperwork. Then came an unexpected ally. Mrs. Clara Bennett, a wiry woman in her 70s with a tray of oatmeal cookies, knocked on my door one afternoon. She'd lived 3 houses down for 40 years and had known Grandma Evelyn like a sister. "I saw what Abby's doing," she said, her voice soft but steely. "She tried to find me for a birdhouse my Henry built, said it VY OLAT color codes. It's not about rules, Ethan. It's about power." We sat in the Lee VY-ing room, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes, and she told me how Abby had terrorized the street for years: fines for faded shutters, threats over untrimmed hedges, even a campaign to ban Halloween decorations. "Most of us gave up fighting," Clara admitted. "She's got the board wrapped around her finger." I showed her Abby's DNA demand, and her eyes narrowed. "She doesn't want proof. She wants you gone. But mark my words, Ethan, she panics when she can't scare someone." Clara's words lit a fire in me. I had the EVY dense hours of footage showing Abby creeping onto my property, muttering threats in her phone, even trying to pry open my back gate one night. I had the documents, the will, the deed. And now I had Clara, a quiet rebel who'd seen it all. Abby escalated, of course, citations for excessive leaf litter in my driveway, a complaint to the city claiming I'd illegally added a shed I hadn't. But my cameras caught everything, and my log grew thicker. One evening, I overheard her on speakerphone with Marla. "Make sure the test comes back negative. I don't care how you do it." The recording was gold, and I knew it. The neighborhood was waking up, too. A guy named Tom, who lived across the street, stopped me one day while I hauled groceries inside. "She found me once from my truck's tailgate sticking out too far," he said, shaking his head. "What she's doing to you's insane." He didn't say much more, but his quiet nod felt like a crack in Abby's armor. Others followed, small gestures, a wave here, a sympathetic glance there. Abby's grip was slipping, and she knew it. She doubled down with a community safety meeting, plastering flyers with her smirking face all over the street. The agenda? Addressing the Palmer property dispute. I showed up with my lawyer buddy, Nate, who'd agreed to help purely for the thrill of dismantling an HOA tyrant. The meeting was in her backyard, 20 folding chairs, a table piled with folders, Abby in a blazer like she was auditioning for a courtroom drama. She launched into a speech about protecting our values, then pointed at me. "This man's residency is a threat," she declared. I didn't argue. I just plugged my laptop into a portable projector and hit play. The screen lit up with footage. Abby sneaking around my yard, her voice plotting with Marla, her hand slapping fake citations on my door. Nate stood and handed out copies of the will, and my DNA results from a legit lab, not her cousin's. This is harassment, trespassing, and defamation, he said, calm as a judge. Cease, or we sue. The crowd went silent. Abby sputtered, it's a setup, but no one bought it. People drifted away, some smirking, others shaking their heads. Her throne was crumbling. She tried one last Hail Mary flyer titled The Truth About Ethan Harper, claiming I'd hacked her cameras and forged the will. It was unhinged, and it backfired. Neighbors started talking to each other. Clara rallied them, collecting signatures for a petition to oust Abby from the HOA board. Nate and I pored over the bylaws and found a jackpot. Abby had misspent HOA funds due lot $3,000 on her patio, payments to Marla's lab, unapproved consulting fees. We had her dead to rights. The vote came a week later at the community center. 50 residents showed up more than ever before. Clara and Tom presented the case. The ballots were unanimous. Abby was gone. She didn't even show. The fallout was swift. The board audited the books and found enough fraud to call the cops. Abby was served a summons, her assets frozen. A for sale sign went up in her yard, and she slunk away in a U-Haul. No fanfare, no goodbyes. The street exhaled. Kids rode bikes again. Porches filled with chatter. Clara took over as HOA president. Her first act was a potluck. No rules, just ribs and laughter. I fixed up Grandma's house new paint, a refinished deck, that old turtleback in the garden. One night, a letter arrived from Marla. I'm sorry. She's always clung to things that weren't hers. It didn't matter. Abby was gone, and Willow Creek was ours. Agina community, not a kingdom. And as I sat on the porch, watching the stars, I knew Grandma Evelyn was smiling somewhere, proud I'd held the line. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY Deo with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY Deo.